Have you ever wondered why, after all of your efforts, your business still isn't thriving? Have you ever wondered why, after so many years, you still don't feel happier? There is a silent sabotage going on in your business, in your life, and you may not even realize it. Tune in today. I'm going to tell you what it is and what you can do about it. Hi, everyone. I'm Katharine Loucaidou. Thank you so much for tuning in again to a Mindset Medicine podcast. And just before we begin, can I ask you a quick favor? Could you please, if you find these episodes helpful, if you have enjoyed following along, the advice, the tips, the strategies, the interviews, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Katharine Loucaidou Coaching. And if you are listening to the podcast, subscribe and follow, like the podcast, make a comment. It would really help to expand our reach and allow other people to find mindset medicine. So are we ready? Are we ready to find out why there is this silent sabotage going on in your business and your life? And here's what it is. It is your mindset. And I know that you have heard this word before. I know you've heard me talk about it, but what I'm going to do today is we are going to dive into what the mindset is that is creating the sabotage in your business and life. And I am going to give you 3 ways to fix it. 3 ways for you to transform the mindset so that you can come back and really have a fabulous 2024. Because, once we get the mindset right, it is amazing how things will begin to transform. So the first thing we're going to talk about is your fixed mindset, because typically this is the ultimate culprit that is sabotaging your business and your life and your relationships. So here is the definition by Carol Dweck, who is a very famous psychologist who wrote a book on the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. So this is what she said. She is a psychologist, and her research predominantly is on achievement and success. And it is the belief in one's abilities, intelligence, and talents are fixed traits. So individuals with a fixed mindset tend to avoid challenges, give up easily, see effort as fruitless, and they ignore useful feedback, feel threatened by the success of others. Does this sound like anyone you know? And you may have some of these issues, maybe avoiding challenges, maybe seeing other people's success as somehow affecting the way you do things and who you are. So here is how a fixed mindset is sabotaging your business. Number 1, a resistance to change. I know that a lot of people don't like change. It's uncomfortable, but the problem is that a business needs to stay relevant. And I can speak firsthand about this. As you know, even from my last episode, I've been talking about AI. I've actually been traveling. I wrote a book on AI secrets for unstoppable business and life hacks. The reason that I wrote the book in the manner that I did, which was more of an educational way of explaining how AI can actually enhance who you are, what you do, and how you run your business. What I'm finding is that because so many people don't understand what AI is and how it is that it could actually help, rather than be a detriment to you, your business, a relationship, taking over the world, all of these different notions that I hear being spoken about, what's important is if you stay within that fixed mindset of, well, here we go. Here's something else that I don't know what to do with. I don't know how to do what I'm supposed to do with AI. It's not a passing fade. It's not a passing fad. It is here to stay. And what I would like you to begin doing is just becoming curious about new things. When I spoke in Atlanta 2 weeks ago, when I entered the room, there was a lot of skepticism. A lot of skepticism on really, how is this tech actually going to help our business? How is it going to help me as a person? And you're telling me that something like AI could make me happier? So here's the thing. It's not a direct correlation that AI is going to suddenly explode the business. What it does is it makes you as a business person more efficient. By becoming more efficient, you're able to do either more things in a day, or you've actually lessened the number of things that you're doing in a day, thereby giving you back more time. What that does is it's this domino effect. You have more time. So now maybe you can do more things that you enjoy doing. Maybe it's a hobby. Maybe it's meeting, networking with more people. Because of that, now your mindset becomes more clear. Now you're happier. You feel more fulfilled. And because of that, right, we've got this domino effect. The one is hitting the other. Now you become happier because you're doing more of what you love and less of what you don't like. So that is how creating the opposite of a fixed mindset, which is a growth mindset. And a growth mindset, when we hear this terminology, and I've never been one that really liked a lot of theory and a lot of terms, like just give it to me straight. Tell me what it is. So a fixed mindset is someone who is not willing to look further into other possibilities. They're not willing. They want to grow, but they want to grow according to their terms. They want to grow according to their rules and how they believe it needs to be done. Whereas a growth mindset is, okay, I'm willing to look at other perspectives. I'm willing to be curious. I don't feel like this is something that I am being forced into. I'm actually interested in exploring new innovation. That's the one difference. Let's keep going. So the lack of innovation, because of this fixed mindset, creates the belief that everything is set in stone. And I made a post about this yesterday on LinkedIn, and I was talking about the decisions that we make. When you have a fixed mindset, you have the idea that a decision that you're making is a life sentence. You are locked into it. There's no escaping. That is not true. Just because you make a decision right now in your business or your life does not mean that you cannot alter that decision. When you have a fixed mindset, you seem to think that, well, I made this decision, now that's it. With a growth mindset, the idea is, I've made this decision. Did I think about it in its entirety? Is it possible that there were other perspective ideas or other perspectives that I hadn't quite thought about? I've done a little more research, and now I have this perspective on this situation. So yes, my decision is going to change from what it was to what it is now because I've learned more about it. That's the beauty of a growth mindset, is you're okay expanding, rethinking an idea, rethinking a decision. That's it. That's the beauty of being open-minded. Another sabotage feature of a fixed mindset is poor resilience. So we know that setbacks and failures, they're just a part of being an entrepreneur. They are part of doing business. And really, if you're not failing, you're not growing, because we don't learn from when everything is going really well in life. What happens is we just start coasting. We're so comfortable. Everything's great. I don't have to rethink decisions. I don't have to rethink how I'm thinking about a situation. It's all good. When in fact, that's typically when the challenge, the setback, or the hurdle is going to happen. And then we're stuck. That is when we get paralyzed. We don't know how to move forward. So our resilience is very minimal, right? We get stuck in where we are because we're blaming ourselves. We're speaking to our mind. That was stupid. Why didn't you think of that earlier? When we have this internal dialogue going on that is so negative and putting ourselves down, it is very hard to be resilient and bounce back from a challenge. So, we're going to move on to some of the ways that we can help you fix some of these shifts in a mindset. And finally, a toxic work culture. If you are working in an environment right now that it is toxic, it is typically because there is an individual or more than one individual, or even if you are not the leader of the organization, but there is another one and they have a fixed mindset, that is where the toxicity will come from. In a toxic environment, learning and growth are not encouraged. The status quo is encouraged. And I know this firsthand when I was working at one of the first brokerages that I worked at. I approached the manager one day and I said, I'm ready to start a team. I've had a lot of success and I'm somewhere between your number 1 and 2 agent right now in the office. And it was an office of about 75, 80 people. I said, I've got a lot of business on my plate. I'm ready to start a team. And he looked at me and he said, you leave the teams for the big boys. You're fine as you are. And I was speechless. So that's when I realized that, you know what, this may not be the environment that I need to be in order to grow to the next level of where I wanted to be. So that's when I started my mind, and that's what happens, right? So there's always this tipping point in life where something is said, something is done, and it's at that moment where the mind starts churning and you start thinking to yourself, oh, that's an interesting statement you just made, or that's an interesting action that just happened. That just showed me a different way of looking at this situation. So for me, I began to see this person in a different light. I began to start asking myself questions. Well, is this really the environment that I want to be in that doesn't allow me to grow? And the next question is really what's most important. So what do I do now? What's next for me? What do I want to be next? And then you start moving forward. The last piece that's really important of moving out of a fixed mindset, or if you think that you may have a fixed mindset, is ignoring feedback. When you ignore feedback, you are ignoring the possibility of improvement. And when I was in Atlanta 2 weeks ago, one of the things, even though I was talking about AI, I think it's really important to discuss mindset, because there needs to be a mindset surrounding innovation. There needs to be a certain mindset in order to be successful in business. And I have now been in business and teaching and educating for 30 years, 30. So I didn't come to this yesterday. When I lived in Europe, here's something that's really fascinating. And I know I'm going a little bit off topic for a moment, but I think it's important to talk about. When I lived in Europe, I did not actually know the language. When I moved there, I did not know Greek. And when I moved there in the 90s, yes, there were people who knew English, but they weren't always willing to use it. So I found myself watching people and sort of watching these micro expressions in their faces. And it's amazing that you don't always have to know what is being said to actually understand the nuance of what is being said. I knew when people were talking about me. I could tell by tones of voice. I could read people's characters before they would even speak to me, just by the way I was watching their mannerisms and their micro expressions, their nonverbal communication, and so on. So what's really important, and I've gone totally off topic here, so I'm trying to remember why I went to this topic. But, oh gosh, I wish I had someone reminding me. But basically, the idea is when you have a growth mindset. Yes, I was talking about Atlanta. So when I was in Atlanta and I was explaining that when you're in business, don't be afraid to ask for feedback. Don't be afraid to, if you lose a deal, lose a sale, call the person up and say, would you mind letting me know what it was that I wasn't able to fulfill for you? Would you mind telling me what was it that just didn't impress you? What was it that I missed? Whatever it is, I'd love your feedback because it would help me learn and grow. This is what I have done for years earlier on in my career, when I didn't get as many listings. I don't have that problem anymore, but early on, I would find it challenging when I didn't get a listing for a property to put for sale. And I couldn't understand why, because in my mind, I had done a great listing presentation. I didn't think there was anything wrong with what I did, when in fact, there were many things that were missing. What I didn't do was find out what they needed. What did they want? What were they thinking? I became really good at what I do when I started embracing reviews, feedback, negative comments, because you can take it as a negative, or you can say, well, they had a reason for saying that. I wonder what that reason is. Why don't I find out? Why don't I find out why they chose that other agent over me? There's got to be something I can learn from this. And that's something else that would be a great statement to start saying to yourself. What can I learn from this? Every time a challenge, a setback happens, I know after my heart surgery and everything that happened to me so many years ago, once I started to really think about things carefully and thoughtfully, asking myself, what can I learn from this? And what can I do different moving forward? That was my tipping point. That's when everything began to change for the better. The way that I dealt with people, relationships, situations, stress, food, health, everything is, what can I learn from this? So we've talked about fixed mindset and growth mindset. So now we're going to talk about risk taking. I see so many people adverse to taking risks in business, when the entrepreneurs who are succeeding out there, the business owners who are succeeding, the leaders who are succeeding, don't just view risks as a necessary evil, but actually as an opportunity for greatness. It is where you can shine. When a business owner takes a risk, what's important is that I call it a calculated risk. It wasn't, let me think about this today and jump into it tomorrow. It was, let me think about it today and I give myself a deadline. In 7 days' time, I'm going to know what decision to make. By the end of this week, I will make a decision. And so what that does is it gives me a parameter of how long I'm going to think about for something, right? Where it's not going to go on forever. When we say, what's the word? It's escaped me. It's because I haven't had my coffee yet. But basically, when people are just working on things continuously, like you never actually get to the action. So what I find most entrepreneurs who are successful is you give yourself a parameter of time to think about something, to research it, to ask other people who may have more knowledge. I'm not looking for opinions from the peanut gallery. I'm looking for more knowledge on a subject, because if I don't know, there's got to be someone else who's been there, done that, and can give me some advice. So if you're always staying within the mindset of, I want to be safe, I want to be comfortable, it's fine for the moment. But what I've seen happen is 1 year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, there is regret. And the interesting thing about regret is you don't typically regret taking the chance. You regret not taking the chance. because you'll never find out what happened. And a lot of reasons why people won't take risks is because they're just so scared of failing, right? That's just your ego. Failing is how you know whether something works or not. And if it doesn't work, okay, so go figure out what works. But it doesn't have to be the end. So there is a cynical view on risk-taking, and typically it is risk-taking is romanticized. Real business is about minimizing risk, not embracing them. So the person who is cynical with the fixed mindset doesn't believe in taking too many risks because it's risky, right? That's where the words come from. So here is the practical perspective on taking a risk. True, it is true that there is reckless risk-taking out there, yes. And the key is to take calculated risks. As I mentioned, give yourself a parameter of time where you're going to do your research. But a successful entrepreneur knows the difference between risk and reward. And they understand that there is a balance that is achieved between them. They know that innovation requires stepping into the unknown, but you do it with research, with planning, and with strategy. So let's go to part 2, hard work, the non-negotiable. Simon Sinek, who is a really brilliant thought leader. I like a lot of what Simon Sinek talks about and what he writes in his books. So Simon Sinek said, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. And I really, truly believe that, because you will find it yourself. You can come home from work and you can come home from work exhausted. But if you're not digging trenches, then it could be psychological exhaustion. It is not physical exhaustion. And when you begin to truly love what you're doing, and you love the way that you're doing it, and I'm going to go back to AI and innovation, because once you start embracing AI and innovation, and your job during the day can become easier, allowing you to do more of the things that you enjoy doing, what happens is that at the end of the day, you feel less exhausted. You actually still have energy. So hard work, we know, is the cornerstone of building a business. You cannot build a business without working hard. But I do believe that the word hard work has shifted over the years, and you can still be smart about working hard. I work hard and I work a lot of hours, but I do it in a way that is smart. So I categorize my time. I have time blocks where I'm working because I'm running different businesses. So I am still working hard to achieve the kind of future that I aim to have. And I have worked hard to achieve the present that I have now, and the beautiful house that I live in, and the car that I love driving. I have worked hard to achieve those, but my hard work is in my effort, right? I'm working smart and my effort is hard. But physically, I'm not exhausted because of the way that I'm doing this hard work, if that makes sense. So what we need to understand is, there's always going to be the cynical view where there will be people who say, well, hard work alone does not guarantee success. It is more about who you know than what you know. And we have all of these types of statements that have been made over the years about hard work. Hard work is necessary, especially if you are starting a business or if your business isn't going well. But I think it needs to be smart work at the same time. When Michelangelo was painting the Sistine Chapel, I don't know if you've seen the photos. One of the courses that I studied in university was classical art. I loved art history, and so on. So I studied a lot of the classics, and there are images of Michelangelo, and he is on a scaffolding, which is about 20 feet high. And there is a space between him and the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel of about definitely no more than 9 inches, not even a foot between his face and the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, because he was such a detail-oriented painter that he wanted to make sure he was achieving perfection. So he worked like that for years on end, lying on his back on this scaffolding about 9 inches from the ceiling. So imagine now, there was no air conditioning. And Italy in the summers, actually probably, I'd say 5-6 months of the year, it's going to be hot, it's going to be humid. And those are the conditions he worked under. But if you were to sit down with Michelangelo today and you were to say to him, wow, you're really working hard at what you're doing, I don't think he would disagree with you, but I think he would correct you. And he would say, but I have an unrelenting vision of excellence, and I am working toward that. So his definition of what working hard was he was achieving excellence. So he didn't coin the phrase working hard. He was just working hard at excellence. So my question to you is, what are you working hard at? Are you just working hard at being an employee, working hard at sales? Or are you working hard at building a future that you really love? Are you working hard at achieving the freedom that you're looking for to achieve happiness? And this is where mindset comes back in again, and the language that we use when we are talking to ourselves and to others. So at the end of your day, at the end of every single day, when you ask yourself, or someone says, hey, did you work hard today? I most definitely worked hard at achieving the future that I'm looking for. I definitely worked hard to see that beautiful expression on my clients' faces of pure happiness. And I was able to help that. So maybe change the definition of how you understand hard work to mean. And remember that it is most effective when it is directed and it's purposeful and it is fueling you. Let's go to the power of a focused mind. So there is nothing more beautiful than having a focused mind without distractions, because that is a superpower. Do you go through your day where you are being interrupted continuously? Phone calls, emails, text messages, and that beep going off. I'll tell you, one of the best things that I have ever done for myself was putting my phone on silent, on vibrate, so I don't hear this constant ding of messages. The other thing that I do is I put do not disturb on. I put it on my computer and I put it on my phone. And the reason I do that is because the way our attention span works is we are prone to distraction. Every time I'm on my computer and I see that little icon of a new email, and I mean, just in recording this, I can already see in the corner of my eye that the emails are already at 25 and I've only been on for about 20 minutes. If we focus on that, we get so distracted that we are not doing our best work. So what I do is I limit my distraction so that I can get my best work done many times throughout the day. And then I have control over when I am going to have a focused mind and when I'm going to have my attention elsewhere, whether it's, okay, I'm going to work through the emails now. Now I'm going to return messages, phone calls, text messages. But first, let me have my focused time so that I can return the favor and be focused for you. Does that make sense for you? If you do not feel the balance between distraction and focused, then what happens is you will start to feel very frustrated, and you will exert that frustration on other people. So Steve Jobs once said this very famous quote, and I think it's brilliant. Deciding what not to do is just as important as deciding what to do. Know what you want to do every day. Know what you want to accomplish every day, because that is what will move you forward. All of this comes down to your mindset, though. How badly do you want whatever it is that you're doing? How badly do you want peace in your life? How badly do you want to not be stressed? When you decide what that amount is, that is when you're going to start working differently. That is when you will start really listening to this work on mindset, because it will absolutely change your life, but you have to want it to change your life. So here is the cynical view on a focused mindset. The cynic will say focus is a luxury, and we work in a modern multitasking business environment where we don't have the luxury of being able to be focused. So the practical issue, the practical answer to that is, while multitasking is praised, oh, I can do many things at once, and look at you, look how busy you are, and I love how you can get everything done. Multitasking actually leads to a decrease in your productivity and an increase in your stress. So here is more clarity on when I'm talking about focus, this is what I mean. So a focused mind is not about isolation, but it is about prioritizing, knowing which tasks will drive your business forward and dedicating the necessary time and resources to them. That's all that means. Doesn't mean you have to shut out the world. You can be focused in a coffee shop doing what you need to do. It doesn't mean silence. It just means that you are dedicating time on one particular thing and not juggling. Let's go to the next cynical view of mindset. And I've heard many people say this: if it's not broken, don't fix it. The problem is that if you are trying to determine whether your mindset is sabotaging your business, if you are trying to determine whether your mindset is actually what is silently killing your relationships or the success that you could be achieving, you will never determine that. What you need to do is watch the effects of how you are with people. Watch the effect of what your business is having on people. Is your business growing, or is it at a standstill? All of these factors are contributing to whether or not your mindset is where it needs to be. So the evolution of your mindset does not mean abandoning what previously worked for you. Obviously, you got where you are today because of your mindset, but what got you here will not always get you there. Right? This is a statement that we hear many people make, and I agree to a certain extent. But we don't have to abandon what got us here. Obviously, we are resilient. We have grit. If you are running a business, it means that you have a passion, and you had it when you started. What can happen is you begin to lose that passion as you don't see growth. You lose the passion when you no longer know or understand how to react to situations. You lose your passion when you get burnt out. So what do? That is where you need a mindset shift. And what you need is someone, typically, who can help you work through that. This is what I do with entrepreneurs, with leaders. One thing that I don't get is I don't get nervous speaking to someone who may be in positions that I've never had. I don't get nervous speaking to, quote, famous people, because at the end of the day, everyone is a human being. And everyone has times where their mindset wavers, whether it is because they have limiting beliefs, whether it is because they feel stressed, don't know how to handle a situation. Sometimes it's just because there is so much emotion involved in a situation that they just can't think straight. Stress has overcome them. maybe a personal situation, they just can't get by, or they're unable to work through a personal situation. Have you ever been in that situation where maybe you have a health challenge? Maybe you have relationship issues going on at home, and it is really creating foggy thinking. And what you need is clarity to make good decisions in your business and your life. When you get to that point, that is where you need someone who is there asking you questions, getting you to start thinking and shifting your mindset, showing you different perspectives. If we simply rely on the narrative that we tell ourselves, which is the narrative that we have grown up with, it is the narrative that we have been raised with, that's not necessarily what you need. You need a different perspective if you're going through some issues. You need a different perspective if your business isn't moving forward. So a mindset centered around growth and positivity will change everything in front of you. So I just need to grab some water. I want to move on to the last part, which is mental conditioning. So the final pillar, we'll call it, in mindset is mental conditioning and how to overcome it. So basically, it's what I was talking about now, is this narrative that you have come into life with, whether it is because of the way that you have been raised, whether it is what happened in school, experiences that have happened to you in life. Mental conditioning is about breaking free from your past, from the expectations of society, self-imposed limitations, which is what so many people do. Most people put themselves in a box of how much they can achieve, what they can achieve. I don't think I would ever have written a book, self-published it, if I had had a limiting belief that it's not something that I can do. Like, who do I think I am? That I should write a book, I should self-publish it, put it on Amazon for the world to see, and then market it myself. But what I decided was, who better to advocate for me than me? I know the effort that I put into creating that book. So when I'm speaking about it, who better than to really understand all that that book is about than me? So for me, that was a good starting point, because in the future, when I write the next book, which I will, it was important for me to understand the process. It was important for me to understand how easy or difficult it was important for me to see how one can fail forward, and it's okay, what I would do differently, which I have learned, and just keep going. So reprogramming your mind to see where possibilities exist, where others may see obstacles, is a huge, huge reward to you for gravitating toward a growth mindset. Because to go through life seeing opportunities and possibilities instead of obstacles and hurdles, it's pretty fun. I had to teach myself how to do that over the last 20 years. But I'm at the point where I can do that now. My fear factor is very small. As long as I have done my research, calculated risks, and so on. So let's think about one particular author who is pretty fascinating, J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series and all of the other series that came after that. She received rejections for years. And I mean years. She received rejections on her book until Harry Potter became a global phenomenon because one person decided to take a risk. I was listening to an interview with Michael Bublé, and he is a phenomenal singer. For 10 years, he tried to get known. He tried to get his name out in the industry. And it's interesting because a very famous producer who ended up being his producer turned him down. Year after year, he said, "You have nothing special. Imagine your whole life you've been singing, and this person who you idolize turns to you and says, you have nothing special." And this particular person said to him, "You sound just like a singer from the 60s and the 50s. And he said, I already have his collection. I have the rights to his collection. Why do I need you? And Michael Bublé's answer to him was, because I'm alive and I can go to concerts and I can promote my name. That's why. Because he believed in himself. He just needed someone to take a risk on him. Now, finally that happened, but it took 10 years. So here's what I would love for you. I would love for you to identify a belief that has been holding you back. What is that? What is that thing that you continually tell yourself, this story that you tell yourself of something that's just not possible for you? I want you to challenge it with evidence of your past. I want you to challenge it with what you know you are capable of. I want you to challenge it with the achievements that you've already attained in your life. Go all the way back to school. Even if you were not a good student, what were you able to accomplish while you were in school? Were you able to have lots of friends? Were you able to organize whatever it was? Rather than breaking yourself down all the time and having negative thoughts about what your limits are, do the reverse. Do yourself a favor and really challenge what you think are your faults and take a step forward and start going somewhere that's a little riskier in business. Go somewhere a little riskier in your relationships. I want you to remember that your mindset is sabotaging your business and your life. Your decisions, your thoughts, your limiting beliefs are not set in stone. It is within your power to reshape your mindset and make it into your greatest asset in this lifetime. When you can enhance your emotional intelligence, and this is the way that you can utilize your emotions for good, rather than reactions, you can use your emotions for responding to things. So having a growth mindset will help you with your resilience. It will help you in your entrepreneurship. It will help you as a leader. It will help you to understand other people. It will help you to appreciate feedback. All of these things that we've talked about today. I know that you want to change certain aspects of the way you see situations. I know that you want to change the way that you may speak to yourself sometimes and how hard you can be on yourself. You don't have to want or wish it anymore. You can actually achieve it. If you are ready to take your business up a notch, if you are ready to start chasing more happiness in your life, I have something very special coming at the end of this month. I will be doing a webinar, and this is the first that I am announcing it. And I would love for you to be there. Go to the links at the bottom of this podcast. If you are listening to the podcast, the link is at the bottom of the podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, the link will be in the comments. If you are watching this on social media, still go over to the link because I haven't posted to social media yet, but you will be the first on the list for the webinar if you would like to attend. It is really going to be phenomenal. And I am going to talk about 3 major things that are killing your business. And they're not going to be just around mindset. Mindset is just one of the 3 things that if you change these 3 things, everything in your business will change. I can promise you that. So go to the link below, sign up for the webinar, and I will see you again on a Mindset Medicine podcast. I'm Katharine Loucaidou. See you again soon.